of Andor dropped. It was a banger, probably one of the best episodes of TV I think I've ever seen. But it's not going to be just me gushing about it. As usual, amazing cast of people joining us right here on the high ground. Hello and welcome to the high ground, newcomers and people who have been here before. Let's start by going around. I want to introduce, have you guys introduce yourselves, so who you are, where we can find your awesome content, and let's see where's Andor in kind of your ranking of shows, right? Star Wars TV. I need your top three. All right. And I'll go to Young first.
Oh, I'm so bad at icebreakers. Hi, I'm Young, Lothal Youngling on TikTok and Twitter, but I'm mainly on TikTok. And I also have a podcast with my friend Jamal at JComics7 called There Are More of Us. And you can find it on Apple and Spotify. And my list...
Come on. We can come back. We can come back.
Yeah, come back to me. It's so hard.
All right, no worries. How about you, Tate?
Well, I am Star Wars Facts Guy. I'm primarily and pretty much only on TikTok. That's Star Wars Facts Guy. A lot of people think it's fact, but it is facts because I do know more than one fact, in fact. Catch me at Star Wars Celebration next year as well. I will be there and I'll be doing super cool, awesome things. When it comes to my show ranking at the moment, I actually had a discussion about this with my friend this morning because after last night's episode, I rewatched the entire Narkina 5 arc and it honestly pushed Andor to the tippy top for me. So Andor's number one, Andor's king. And then maybe controversial nowadays because I know the discourse around it has changed. Obi-Wan at number 2 and then Mando at number 3.
Oh, nice. All right. How about you, Spooky Jedi?
I'm Spooky Jedi on TikTok, and I'm also part of a podcast called Rebel Scum with the Side of Calf. We're on Spotify right now, and we just started at the beginning of Andor. I personally would rank... Are we doing including animated shows or no?
Yeah.
Is that like
animation? Yeah, we'll include them.
Rebels is definitely at the very top for me for Star Wars shows, and then probably Clone Wars. Just there's so much content, and I don't know, Andor. It's a toss up between it, Mando, and Kenobi for me. Like I'm really not sure where I would throw it, but it putting something at the bottom of the list feels bad. But I love all the Star Wars shows. So even something at the bottom of the list isn't really bad in my opinion though.
Yeah, and that's why I say top three because we don't need to go into the bottom.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
But
yeah,
no, appreciate it. And we got Nerdy Nightly Crew.
That is right. I'm Nerdy.
And I'm Clarus.
And we are the dynamic duo behind such hits as the Nerdy Nightly YouTube channel and the Nerdy Wordy Book Club and the Nightly Morning Show, all of which you can find here on YouTube, all of your podcast feeds everywhere. And yeah, Clarus, do you have a definitive top 3 Star Wars shows for you right now?
Definitely top 2, hands down are Andor and Mandalorian for me right now. That third spot, I actually I don't know. I have not watched Rebels yet. Don't come at me. I promise I will. It's on the list.
You've only seen one season of Clone Wars.
No, I've seen episodes.
One season and 3 episodes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna actually go with Bad Batch.
Bad Batch. The first season.
Yeah, we started watching Clone Wars in chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to
which is mostly season 1.
Yeah, mostly season 1 with a couple episodes in season 2 and 3. Yeah. How about you?
Nice.
I'm gonna go with the 1980s Droids animated show from Saturday mornings at number 1. It's not good, but God, am I nostalgic for it. It's tough. I think that the conversation around Andor for me is difficult just because it isn't complete yet. And so, you know, I was having this conversation about what my top 5 shows of the year was going to be on Twitter. And Andor right now sits in that on the fence. We'll see how it ends. Because I think a strong ending on a strong show, Andor will probably end up being the #1 Star Wars show I think they've ever made, right? I think the last 5 episodes in particular have been some of the best television of the year. But a weak ending, if they don't manage to land this ship until the end of season 2, I think that, you know, it could go down as one of those kind of huge penultimate moments with a finale that doesn't really deliver. And so I'm definitely hesitant to call it Andor's the best thing this year until I see the last 2. But for now, it is at the top for me. I think it's #1. I think that Mandalorian is #2. And then after Mandalorian, it's really a tough kind of like bubble of Clone Wars has some of the best arcs, but then season 2 and 3 of Rebels is some of the best Star Wars ever. So Rebels and Clone Wars are kind of fighting out for that 3rd spot. But.
Okay, all right, not bad. And Young, have you come to a decision?
I think I finally did. This will probably change in the next 5 minutes. So, as of now, just because I have the attention span of a flea, it is Andor because it's so good, and it gets into some topics that, you know, we don't want to think about sometimes, but it is slapping you in the face, making you wake up if you aren't already woken up. And then Rebels, because it's just.
Are you saying you're
Rebels.
woke? Okay.
I mean, look at
Is
me.
this a woke
Look at me.
podcast?
Look at me. I'm a woman of color. I think I have to be a little bit woke. And then
Not based on, so never mind. I'm not gonna make that joke. I was looking at some of the polling from yesterday's vote in the United States, and ooh.
Yeah. Let me. Oh.
Did you just pull a dog into the podcast?
I did. Sometimes she just wants some attention. So this is Suki, named after the character in
Hi, Suki.
Avatar: The Last Airbender, and we also just
Great
got a
M. Night
kitten.
Shyamalan.
We just got a kitten named Avar. So
I was gonna say, has Avar tried to claw up your leg yet?
all of the time, I actually thought this was Avar, so I was ignoring her paws on my back. But I was like, oh, it's not digging inside of my skin, so it must not be the cat. The cat climbs me like a mountain, and it's horrible every time. But it makes me wear pants all the time. So
He's my favorite in Avatar.
you're a man of fine tastes. But yeah, jumping into this episode. So I kind of like to break it up by storyline and also start with how everyone feels about the title of the episode and how it connects throughout, right? So, we got One Way Out, and I think that hit me hard. But how do you guys feel about the title and how it plays in? You know, we had major storylines for Mon Mothma, for Andor. Obviously, and some great Luthen stuff. And we want this to be conversational, but I'll call people if we start getting quiet. I'll ask Tate first to start.
Oh, no pressure. Thanks, Choco. Thank you. Gosh, honestly, I've really enjoyed the naming scheme for these episodes. Mando did the really cool thing was like chapter 2, chapter 3, but always like a good title that's resonant with the themes of the story. And, I think you'd be remiss to kind of miss what's going on with this title. One Way Out, it's very much connecting to the story overall. The idea that the only way out of authoritarian fascism is armed revolution. That is the only way out. Is either you're in the system for the rest of your life or you fight your way out the system. Kind of resonating with what Cassian and later Kino would say about, you're either going to die giving them what they want or you're going to die fighting to get out. So I think that's definitely what they're hitting with there. And it plays really nicely with all the other titles that have gone past, like especially Nobody's Listening. That idea, that title specifically tying into One Way Out, it's all the connective tissues there. There's so many layers upon layers when it comes to the way that this arc in particular has been constructed. It's perfect. Couldn't be better.
Awesome. Love it. And Spooky?
And
also, what do you want me to call you?
You can call me Spooky or Eric. Either or. It doesn't. Either is fine. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, I don't know if I have a lot more to add other than what he already did, but I'm loving the names and overall, and I think there's a lot to be there's a lot of conversation to be said just about like how like well thought out like the names are, and just like everything in Andor seems to be like nothing seems to be like an accident, or that everything seems to be like well placed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think what I found so fascinating about the concept of one way out is that they don't know what that way is. Like they come up with this mantra of one way out, and they all buy in 100%, right? Everyone is fully committed to the idea, and then when they get to the end of the road, they're all surprised at what the one way out is, right? They get to the edge, and sorry if spoilers for the episode.
oh yeah, we're going into it. Like,
they get to the edge of that ledge. Because I want to be Dr. Seuss without the racism when I'm older. But they get to the edge of that ledge, and they're looking out, and the entire galaxy is before them. How they get off that planet, I have no idea. But the entire galaxy is before them, and their one way out is a way that isn't actually a way out for some of them, right? When they look back at Kino and he can't swim, and like he came up with the one way out, and he didn't know what the end of his own road was going to be, and so it's fascinating, how we can. I think that on top of all the other commentaries, it's commentary on how sometimes we can buy into the slogans. We can buy into the marketing of something, of a movement, without really knowing the direction that we're going, and how even though you may not know the direction that you're going, full commitment is the only way to get there. And when you get there, you'll figure it out, right? There will be a next step. There will be that next thing. But yeah, they keep saying one way out. And obviously for them, that way out is up, but that way out is also the unknown, right? It's a mystery that they genuinely don't have an answer to. They're all kind of like, well, I guess here we go.
It also like leans in a little bit to like a mob mentality, in terms of like getting a large group of humans in the same area who all have something that binds them together, and we have seen in a lot of instances through like literature or even like news where like that can like be very negative and go horribly wrong. And in this case, it's a group of people who we don't even really know why any of them are there. I don't believe that that's like really talked about or gone into depth, but these people who are in prison, who know that there's that when they leave, they're not really leaving. And they have that thing that binds them together into like almost a singular mindset, which is why I don't think anyone takes the moment to think one step ahead. And I think that that's what makes that's what reflects on Andor as the leader in a sense, because I think he knew. I think he was kind of the only one who had at least a half a step ahead, and realized where this was going.
Yeah.
It's Young. Sorry, you haven't.
Oh, no, just thinking y'all hit the nail on the head, but I think I'm going to take it one step in sort of the morbid direction. But the only way out is death, unless you die or just fight like hell to get out. But the only thing guaranteed to them at this point in time is death. That's what we saw with, most likely with Kino, that scene. I'm still trying to process that scene, and then going immediately to Luthen and Lionel. What's his name?
Lonnie.
Thank you. Like going with Lonnie, because like with that scene, there really isn't any way out for either of them, except like y'all said, to fight. But more than likely, someone's gonna end up dead. But just this whole thing, emotional damage.
Yeah, especially Luthen's speech at the end. What is he giving them? It's everything. It's his soul. It's
Sunrise he'll never see.
Yeah, I'll burn my life to build a sunrise I'll never see is such an incredible line.
Yeah, there was too much emotional damage in this one episode with Kino not leaving and that speech. I'm gonna have to rewatch this at least 3 or 4 times to like fully process it.
Okay, but about Kino, like 2 guys could have swam him ashore. I'm just saying, like, if he had jumped in next to me, I can swim myself and another grown adult. I could teach him to swim in the first like
But
first
he might have
Yeah.
phobia though. He might be like deathly afraid of water, like open water, and there are people out there that have that as like a phobia where they could just like not even ever make that jump.
But I think their
I'm just saying, I don't think
It's
the
altruism.
very
very
much-
he's going to get pushed.
It's very much
He's
the
ending up in the
Jack and
water.
Rose Titanic of the Star Wars universe. They could have swam him.
It's too cold.
It's the
on
Jack
Earth
and
in
Rose
the fire.
situation all over again. It's too cold. They'll freeze before they get there.
I mean, my theory is that Leonardo was like, I wasn't really thinking this as a long-term thing. I gotta go. I'm really busy.
I don't think the prisoner's altruism after was there, because I mean, as we saw in 2 episodes previously, they didn't feel any sadness that their fellow prisoner fried himself. It was just it was an inconvenience. So once they, I guess you'd say, got to the edge, that mob mentality disbanded, and it was every man for themselves. And I don't think, except for like potentially Andor or Melchi, would have helped him swim, but I don't think a lot of the other men would have helped him, because they were just thinking of themselves and getting out, and potentially their friends. But I think it was every man for themselves once they hit the water.
I would agree with that if
I mean,
they
even
were
before
free.
that.
My thing about it though is looking at the position that you're in. You want to get to that shore with as many people on your side as possible, because they still have to get off that planet. And like the big question, getting out of this episode, and I hope that they answer it. I hope they don't pull what they pulled with Cinta and Aldani, where she's just like on Ferrix the next time we see her, and you're like, wait, but how did you get past the Star Destroyer? I hope that we see how they actually get off Narkina, because their escape isn't done, right? They've swam across a lake, but as far as we know, there are no cities on Narkina. There's no ships, right? Like, we've only seen there be this Imperial presence. And so if I was one of those prisoners, I'm not looking at it as, all right, we're done. I'm looking at it as, all right, we need to band together as many people as possible so that when they land the ship, we can have enough people to take out that crew and take that ship. And then maybe when we get to Coruscant, or when we get to wherever we're going, Tatooine or Jakku, somewhere far away from the Empire's
Some
world,
desert.
then we can split up. But like, we're not done. Like, we got swim ahead of us, but then we probably have 2 or 3 more fights before we're actually out of this hornet's nest.
I
That's
kind of
valid,
like
but how many of
that,
them would think
though.
about that
Yeah.
in the moment?
We see,
maybe in
we
hindsight,
see in
probably.
the scene prior. In the scene prior, when they're running through the sky bridge, Ham and I think it's Tagger or whatever, they get trampled over. People, they're just knocking through each other. It's very much that kind of mob idea of once they're that close to the door, it's kind of like the horse with the blinders on, trying to get through the race as soon as possible. It definitely brings into a question of, and please shush me if I'm sidetracking too hard, but is one way out an interpretive slogan? Was everyone's one way out a collective? Is there a collective one way out, or does everyone have their own version of what that one way out is? Because Kino said, help your fellow man, help those who are lost. But for the other person, that one way out could be, screw the guy next to me, screw the guy I'm running with. I got to get out whatever way I can. So I think
maybe it was just literal. There's only one door.
It could be. Yeah.
That's the way out.
But then they pull the camera up and there's 3 different doors and everyone's swimming in different directions. I was like, well, it looks like there's 3 ways out, but that's fine.
Oh, only way out is up.
I kind of took it another way, where it's all about. I mean, this is basically what the rebellion is going to be, right? Just like Rise of Skywalker, it's just people, But once they topple the Empire, everyone's like, well, now what do we do? I didn't think this far. We have to form a new government now, and like, people need to become senators and stuff, like we were rebels before. Like this is a whole new world that we're not prepared for. So yeah, I mean, I see that as just a microcosm of that. These guys escaped out of the prison, they're on the planet, and the Empire will probably send other people, and not all those people are gonna make it. Some might end up in other prisons, but it's still better than it's still better than working yourself to death in prison.
It's like that end scene in Finding Nemo where they finally make it to the ocean, but they're still in the bags, and Bloat's like, now what? And they're just stuck in the bags.
And I think what's so sad about that is I think most of those people who escaped there, because we see, I think, I couldn't really tell what was going on, but in the distance when we're watching Melchi and Cassian run at the end, it looks like they're like ships shining spotlights in the far background. And so what I think is most tragic about it is a lot of those prisoners are going to end up back in those prisons, right? Like they said, it's going to take us months to turn them back on because they have to like turn the hydro on, which seems like it would be
I don't know. That was a
fairly easy to
weird,
just open those dams. But, they're going to turn those prisons back on because they didn't destroy the prisons, right? Those prisons are still functional. And if those prisons are necessary, if what they're building is necessary, I think a lot of those people just kind of end up right back where they just escaped from, realistically, because they're going to need people to be running those as soon as they're turned back on. And obviously Cassian gets away and Melchi gets away, but God, like the tragedy for those guys who do escape, who swim across that lake, get caught, and then wake up 6 months later back on, the electric floor tiles. Like that's brutal.
I think they're all going to get killed. They aren't going to allow any survivors to tell the story about what happened. You can't leave survivors unless you want to leave a legacy of some sort.
No.
So they're all dead.
Also, thanks Connor for the 79 GBP. I don't know what that is, but
Great British Pound?
Oh yeah, that's what it would be. He's
no, that doesn't make any sense.
I know.
One of my favorite things about super chats is trying to discern what the acronyms mean.
Yeah.
We get SOK a lot, and I always forget that it's South Korea. And I'm like, you sent me 0.5 socks? Dobby? Like, what is this?
Master has given Dobby a sock.
Yeah.
Please, I don't have to scream anymore. Yes.
There's I don't know, like the tension that was built up, and again, I keep saying this. I have some friends that can't watch Andor because it was too slow for them, and which is okay. It's valid if it's not your style, but we don't get the intensity, we don't get the care for these prisoners had we not spent 2 episodes with them, had we not seen what they go through, had we not understand the way the prison looks. The first episode in the arc where he can't go down because they're waiting on this one guard to run up, and that's how he knows they're shorthanded, and so many little things. But the other part of it is, kind of the same with any rebellion. The second mouse gets the cheese. The first people who were trying to escape, a lot of them got shot and stuff, and he just had to keep going. Also, I did think it was kind of funny, but also sad, how once it started, the prisoner that they're bringing in, stuff started going down, and they're like, "We're just gonna shock this guy." He's like,
I just got here.
"This is my first day." Well,
and then he gets killed.
He got on board with the prison break real quick, though. He grabbed that shock staff. He was fighting back immediately. He was ready. I was impressed.
Yeah.
no
He would look like he was about to
idea what's
shit
going on.
himself during processing, and then he's like, "Nope, I'm on board with this," and then he gets shot. It's really sad.
They introduced him with such a slow pan up from his chest that I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be someone important." I was like, "Which member of the rebels?"
Yeah.
No, it's just
There's some rando.
some random guy.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was going to be something new.
Immediately.
Kind of bumping off at what you said, Chaco, taking the time to get to know these characters. This show, being able to make us fall in love with these characters in such a short amount of time and then ripping them away from us and causing, again, emotional damage is just so good. Andy Serkis, I cannot get over his performance in this, his micro expressions, and then you see hope get ripped away from him again when he realizes he's going to have to swim or die. It's just, so good.
Yeah. He's very, the ability to emote with your body and stuff in mocap also means you have to be a pretty damn good actor, just in general, and I hated him in the first episode that he showed up in, because I'm like, you are also a prisoner. Like, what is this? The Stanford prison experiment thing? Why are you exerting this power over these people to help these, your jailers, or help them keep you enslaved and building with connects or whatever? But to see his turnaround was just beautiful and chilling. But all right, let's jump into the Mon Mothma storyline. I loved this conversation with so much subtext. where they're saying stuff, but they're having a whole different conversation at the same time, and you're kind of like, it's only you two in the room, like just say it. But
What was
how did
any
you
of the
guys feel?
subtext?
Yeah, but how did you guys feel about that meeting? I guess I'll ask Spooky first.
Uh, I don't. I loved Mon's character showing that she, like, even if she doesn't ever get along with her daughter, she still wants a better life for her daughter, and it just shows how, like, deeply compassionate Mon Mothma is. Like, I feel like we always see her choosing what's best for, like, other people, even if it's not best for her at that moment. And I think this is another example of that.
Yeah. Just real quick, Connor in the chat says,
Oh
"Is
God, Connor.
let's see, is Circus the only person we know to portray 2 live action characters?" And then John Baker
Okay.
said, "Tamora Morrison."
And technically,
it's on my notes.
Mark Hamill, right?
Yeah, Mark Hamill.
And Warwick Davis probably has the most.
Well, yeah.
True.
Warwick Davis has 5, right?
Yeah,
Something around 5.
he's in most of them.
Yeah. Is Snoke live action?
I was gonna say.
He's a live
motion
action character, but he's
It gets back to the
It's in
Lion
live
King,
action.
the Lion King 2019 conversation where you're like, it's an animated movie. Like, it looks really realistic,
Yeah.
but there's one shot in the movie that's a real shot.
But Young, how do you feel about that? About meeting Davo?
That when I realized what he was proposing for his price, oh, my heart sank. My heart absolutely sank because, I mean, arranged marriages, at least through a Western lens, it's something that we're just like, no thank you, no thank you. And the fact that Mon, immediately goes Mama Bear, like, we're done here. What's his face? We'll see you out. And he's like, but this is a really good deal. It's like, she's not chattel to me. Again, like, I think Ducks and Downloads said something in the chat where kind of against Leda, no offense to you, Chris, but like, I don't think Leda is anything like her father. She just has been poisoned against her mother by her father. And every teenager is going to hate their parent at one point or another. And I think that the pressure is added on with Mon being such a public figure and having to keep up appearances. And Leda, unfortunately, has to be a part of that because she is the daughter. But just seeing that was really interesting. And I am interested if they're going to stick to what I've heard people say about canon, that Leda does die at some point. So I'm wondering if this is the catalyst that leads to Leda's death.
I will say, like, it's not just Perrin that's turned Leda against Mon, though. I think that Leda knows that her mom's lying to her. She doesn't know what she's lying about, but, like, family knows, right? And I think that Leda, she knows she's being lied to. And I'd like to believe optimistically that if she knew that it was the rebellion, Leda would be like, you know what, Mom, it's a good cause, I'm on board. But I think there's just that element of, like, my mom is never here. She works all the time. And when she is here, I don't think she's being honest with me. I think that even if Perrin wasn't there, if Mon was a single mom who had a nanny who was helping out, I still think Leda would feel the same way, just because there's that element of, like, there's that undercurrent of every time Leda walks into a scene with Mon, her mom stops talking because she's in the middle of talking about something that her daughter can't know. And that would be suffocating to live under, right? And
I mean, that's totally valid.
Reasons, yeah, Mon's doing it for all the right reasons, but her daughter doesn't know that, and so her daughter just feels isolated, and it's so tragic, but it's the price of rebellion, right?
Well, and like when they're discussing it in terms of like a price, which obviously is so just all kinds of ick, right?
Dehumanizing.
Yeah, you like at first, if you're looking at this from, like, we've been reading like Wheel of Time, like fantasy stuff, and so like political marriages are very much a big part of fantasy or space fantasy, right?
Or most of human history.
Well, yeah. It's it's not uncommon. And so when we get to witness this tension between Mon and her daughter, and we know that like they don't get along and they don't necessarily love one another, this is a moment that like Mon really shows like how much she loves her, because she can see exactly what's going to happen, and how the chessboard is set out for her to be in debt for the rest of her life, right? If she brings that boy over, oh no, they're just to meet, I promise, just to meet. Her daughter's gonna know her mom doesn't like that boy, and so she's going to rebel against her mother. She's going to get close to this guy, and if they do end up together and married, he has Mon Mothma in his pocket for the rest of their lives, right? Because he has access to her daughter, he has that connection, and he can always use that against her. And that's what's so like horrible about the entire situation, is that it's not just about the now in the moment, it's about the like game, about the game that they're playing, and that's why it's so ick. It's because it's dehumanizing and like a chessboard.
Yeah, and I love how you guys put it, with how Lita probably feels about her mom. It's really similar to the book Leia, Princess of Alderaan, where Leia is pissed off at her parents. There's all this stuff going on, and they're all they do is throw parties, and they don't care, and they don't include her in this stuff. Now these parties were secret meetings to help form the rebellion, and they just didn't want to tell a child about it. But yeah, I can absolutely see that being the case. But Perrin is such a punchable man that I think the bigger part of it, it's not that I don't know so much of it being. Monmouth is breaking with tradition, and with Changeling tradition, and we've seen that over the past few episodes, like, the Changeling drink where you put a worm in it and it disappears like cotton candy. And she's like, that's disgusting. I don't like that. All of this tradition she's breaking away from. She's in a loveless marriage, and it's arranged. She's stuck with this guy who she unfortunately can't punch in the face, and she doesn't want Leda to go through that same thing. And even though she doesn't know that, he could be a stand-up kid, but the way Davo, he's like, I have money, I need status, and I'm gonna get that from you no matter what. I don't know, it was beautiful. I liked it.
I just want to say quickly, hold on, just one thing. Leda dies? How can you just drop that with like no context? When
Sorry,
does this happen?
I don't know. I just heard about it, that in canon, it's mentioned that Mon has a daughter, but she dies sometime in the beginning of the rebellion. I just hear this through the grapevine. I know nothing about it. I have not Wikipedia it. I haven't corroborated with anybody, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall her death, but she is briefly mentioned, and then never mentioned again in many books going forward. So something happened.
Sorry.
And it would be
that reshapes. No, thank you. Thank you because that reshapes the whole context of the journey, knowing kind of the idea of where it could be. Because especially with Mon Mothma's character, I found her scenes to really be the most intense. Which again, like so many people are saying, most intense and stressful Star Wars show, and not a single blast of fire needs to be shot for it to be that suspenseful. Mon Mothma, for me, she feels like she's in her own box. She's got Luthen and Claire are kind of weighing down on her, like, listen, you need to be more upfront about it. If you're going to be in the rebellion, you need to start making power moves. She's got complications in her own home. She's got complications. Even Vel is kind of like, listen, you got to start like thinking with your brain and not with your heart. We got this rebellion to worry about. You got family. She's got all these different pressures going on, and just the notion that I think that Dava was correct in a sense that even if it was split second, she thought about it. She did think about it, and if this is something that she goes through with, and it ends Leda's death, that's ripple effect, that mentality. Every time I see her in Return of the Jedi or anything else going onwards, I'm just going to look at her and think, holy cow, man. The immeasurable guilt. And again, it's that idea of like, how much are you willing to commit? How much are you willing to give? Is this the one way out for Rebellion? Is this the one thing she needs to do to fight and get through? Just, it's such an uncomfortable scene. For me, definitely the most uncomfortable scene of the episode. It's that no other word I can think of besides perversion. It just felt slimy. It felt icky. And the fact that Poe associates with her, and I'm like, yeah, not very surprised. Not surprised that it's the company he keeps. Oh.
I worry
did-
that.
Yuck.
Go ahead.
Oh,
What were you
sorry.
gonna
I
say,
was
Spooky?
gonna ask. Did they ever mention if like Chandrillan customs, like, can basically do an arranged marriage for his daughter? Like, are we gonna see that, or has that not been really specified?
It hasn't been
I think
talked about for
he would be
Perrin,
all
but we
for his very old customs.
yeah, he does like the customs and follows along with them.
Well,
So
and I
maybe,
love-
but
Oh, sorry.
but if they do arranged marriages, then marrying your child to someone of a lower class or a known criminal would also be a step down for them. So like I think it would still just add a lot more conflict. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I don't know that Davo is viewed as a criminal, though. And I don't know that he's viewed as lower class, right? I think that he's known to be by Mon Mothma and by Tay. But, you know, I would wonder what his position outside of Chandrillan, like, nobles would be. Like, on a galactic level, he probably comes across to most people as just a well-to-do banker who is of some renown, right? And even the way that he enters that scene is so fascinating because, you know, he has this like 3-point plan to get to the arranged marriage. It's the like fourth thing he says, but he starts by mocking traditional Chandrillan architecture, which Mon Mothma agrees with. But then he turns that around on her, and he's like, "Yeah, but the traditions of Chandrila are important," which she also agrees with. And so when he finally gets to arranged marriage, he's had her agree with his point of view on the easiest aspects of Chandrilan culture to get on board with. And then he's like, oh, but this is also Chandrilan, right? And he throws the last vestige of Chandrila, is their home world, at her. And it's the one part of Chandrilan culture that she truly isn't on board with, and that has affected her most in her life. But he attacks her by getting her to agree first. Chandrilan culture, like, that's super important, right? Tradition's super important. Yeah, of course. All right, so we should arrange a marriage between our kids. Ah, well. and there's the line, right? But he gets her to step on the line first. And it's so brilliant. You know that whole conversation, he's arranged it from beginning to end so that he can hit his beats in order to get her to be standing on the line and have her, you know, I think that if he starts with arranged marriage, she just says no. She never thinks about it. The only reason she thinks about it is because he walks her there. And he holds her hand and he says, hey, here's the field. Do you want to go play? And she's like, well, maybe. We'll see next week, right?
He's a fantastic salesman. That's for damn sure. I got the impression that while he is, or what the will appear as a rich banker, the way he talked about only coming to Coruscant once, and you know, all he wants is to be invited back. I got the impression that it was because he's not the most welcome there, but I don't truly know what his standing outside of the planet would be.
But we know that the same is true about Tay, right? Tay's also only been to Coruscant once. Prior to the last meeting with, prior to Mon Mothma bringing him out the second time. So I think that, like, we've kind of seen him and Tay both have very similar circumstances in relation to Mon Mothma and Coruscant as a whole.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. I appreciate that. But yeah, all right. So moving forward into the other storyline, right? We find out who we have another ginger spy, but at least he didn't start by saying I am the spy, because that was
Baby
really
hot.
weird. But yeah, find out he's a spy and him going to visit Luthen. The darkness in that scene, I don't know. I thought that was brilliant. Nerdy, what do you guys think?
Oh, about that, I think the reason why that scene works for me is in the scene before it, right? When he's with ISB and they're talking to the elder statesman of the ISB comes in and he's like, "Hey, look, I guess we're done here, right? We just let them find the ship and we're good." And that guy's the one that steps forward and is like, "Oh no, we should behave as we normally would. We should check out the ship because the most conspicuous thing we could do is not behave the way that we always would." The guy's like, "All right, we'll do that." And then he walks away and he goes and reveals himself to be a spy, right? He helps the ISB in an honest way. He makes the ISB scarier through competency, which is what I think Andor has done excellently for the Empire as a whole, which is make the entire Empire come across more frightening than I honestly think they've ever been through making them competent. You know, the soldiers with the blaster rifles in Narkina 5 have better aim than any stormtrooper we've ever seen. They actually were like taking everybody out. I was like, God damn, if this happened on the Death Star, this series would be a lot shorter. 25 minutes in. But when we get to the scene where he's confronting Luthen, not only is he confronting Luthen about wanting to leave, but we've just seen him be evil, do bad things, cause what is going to ultimately be, and I think that we're going to see Saw Gerrera lose a limb next episode, right? I think that Saw Gerrera is going to show up for this Anton Krieger deal, and we're going to see one of those visible differences between him and Rogue One. I have a feeling all of Andor is just going to be every season Saw or every episode
just loses apart.
He loses, yeah. Maybe it's like the left leg next week, but
The deconstruction of Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
the scene with Luthen is so much deeper for me because we see how competently he is working for the ISB as a spy. Like it really was brilliant.
Yeah, and it really like leads to believability in that he has worked his way through the Empire. Like there's a lot of time where someone's revealed to be a spy, you know, whether or not it's Star Wars or whatnot, and you're kind of like, interesting, you know. It's like sure, if you say so, right? But we actually had this moment, and it wasn't even a large moment. It was just something that I was like, yeah, of course you've made it this far. You've been damn good at your job, and like it's probably cost lives, right? Like it's cost lives, it's cost freedoms, and that is horrifying. You know, how do you sleep at night? It's a great question, and I do not blame him for wanting out. He's like, I have a daughter now, and that like I never thought I would feel the way that I feel now. It's it's something that I can't even begin to relate to. Right?
I hope not.
No. But like he feels like a full and complete human in the few scenes and snippets that we've had with him, because we've seen him in these group settings where he can contribute like a little bit here or there. We get a slightly bigger moment, but even then it's not like much, and then we get this reveal, and it's all like laid out so thoughtfully and carefully that I was like, yes, you took my hand and you led me down, and I'm here for it, and I believe you 100%.
Yeah.
That poor guy.
He's dead.
He's gonna die. I know it.
I like how unassuming they made his character when we first saw him in the few couple of meetings, because, you know, he was just a background character, and now we have this entire scene, and we're just like, whoa, wait a second. Like, I was screaming at my TV, like, is that? And I appreciated that so much. Just the way they're handling, I guess you'd say, twists in this show, completely out of left field.
Yeah, I didn't.
Really
I was like,
interesting
oh,
as
that's the
well
guy with the
you-
eyes super close together in that one episode. That's how I recognize him. Were you gonna say? Tate?
Well,
If you
What's so
go
funny is
back
going
and
into-
watch the go ahead if you wish.
I was just gonna say quickly, just going back, like in the online Star Wars conversation leading up to Andor, I felt like there were a lot of people who were like, there won't be a lot of Star Wars references in the show because Tony Gilroy does not care about Star Wars, right? He wants to make a good television show, but he hasn't really read it all. And what I think is so fascinating about that point about him just being a background character in so much that gets pulled forward is the same thing's true about Melchi, who's this character from Rogue One. The same thing's true about all of these, the ways that the show has referenced Star Wars and the galaxy of Star Wars has been so subtle and it's been pulling things from the background forward to make them feel like they're a fully realized part of everyday life. And in doing so, it's made every corner of the Star Wars galaxy just feel a little bit closer to the audience. And that's been brilliant. Like, not having Melchi have a line in the first 2 episodes that he's in, and then having him be Cassian's right-hand man here, it's just brilliant, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, I didn't even notice that was the guy from Rogue One, the first episode that he appeared. And so it's just that little element of Tony Gilroy, I feel like, has cracked a new way to do fan service that I hope people learn from and bring into other properties.
Yeah. And I love now that you can watch other properties and understand, like, that random guy in the background has a full life. He has a family. He maybe hates what he's doing, hates working for the Empire, and can't sleep and has an ulcer, but he's just here. And then Vader chokes him, and then we laugh at his death. But
which is the story that the books were always supposed to give, right? The books were always doing that thing of like filling in all the background characters, and now we're seeing a TV show on Disney Plus do the thing that the Star Wars publishing was doing for us beforehand. And I'm loving this. Almost feels more like a Star Wars novel in a way, and yeah. I'm loving it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I will say, going off what you said, Nerdy. Here's my theory. This is my tinfoil hat theory. Tony Gilroy is a little shit stirrer. He's not reading Wikipedia and he's not consuming all these books, but he definitely cares. Like, there was an interview that came out around episode 4, after Mon Mothma drops the Gorman reference that like links back to Rebels, and the interviewer was like, "Oh yeah, the Gorman thing," and I think they kind of said it incorrectly, or they interpreted the statement wrong, and it was like off for 3 minutes about like how much in-depth like research he went into Rebels and whatnot. Like, he definitely cares when it comes to story first, and all the other fun, exciting stuff second. But I mean, the man definitely, like, I think it was an active choice to bring back Melchi for sure. Like, looking back and you seeing the relationship Melchi kind of has in Rogue One, where him and Cassian kind of have a little bit of back and forth. And I mean, I saw something on Twitter today where Melchi was dragging a soldier behind cover in Rogue One, and someone was like, "Oh well, he probably doesn't want to leave a man behind after Narkina 5." And it's all so deliberate when it links to the story that he's telling. Tony Gilroy definitely, he wasn't the one that said, "Yeah, let's put Starkiller's armor in Luthen's treasury. That'll look so cool." But he's definitely like, "Hey, if I can link 2 and 2 together, that'll be really rewarding." And that's why it's going to feel so cool once Andor's done to go Andor, A New Hope as like one kind of trilogy of stories, just seeing that flow and that continuation there. It's going to look pretty cool. He knows what he's doing. He's a cheeky bug.
Yeah. Spooky, looks like are you back? Everything's good?
Yeah, sorry. My dog actually unplugged my laptop cord and I didn't realize it, and it didn't tell me until I got the green screen, and then immediately I looked behind me and the cord's unplugged, and then when I looked back my laptop was off. I apologize. Sorry about that.
No worries. It happens. Yeah. Any thoughts, Young, on this portion?
No.
No.
I will say if the
what
table's
portion
open.
are
Sorry.
we talking about?
So we're talking about the end bit with Luthen. So it's going to go to someone else, so you can kind of catch up on what's been said. But what were we going to say real quick, Tate?
Oh no, I will say just on the topic. I think Clarice brought it up about Lonnie. I think his name's Lonnie. I rewatched the Narkina 5 episodes complete just to get like the vision. And there's a scene in I think episode 8 where Dedra's in the ISB office, and it's Lonnie and some other guy, and they're kind of giving her a little bit of back and forth to like what's going on with all the equipment, and you can kind of see that Lonnie kind of the way his dialogue works, he pushes the conversation into certain directions. I don't know if that's deliberate, but going back, I want to watch all the scenes now to see like how in front of my face was this, and the whole time was it under our nose that Lonnie was always like ducting things? Because definitely the way that Luthen put it to him is like, listen, you kind of steer the ISB into one direction, we'll feed you all the little nuggets that you need, and then you keep the train of thought going. So it'd be really interesting to see how, if we look back and reflect, he was there the whole time, just in the background doing his thing. Definitely do think he's getting killed though. Dedra's going to shoot him 100%.
I think
But he's not making it out.
Cyril's going to start.
Cyril will do it. He'll be like, "Oh,
like,
my love,
like, loves me, love me, mommy."
I still feel like Cyril is just getting more radicalized by the second, and he's going to try and send a message that the rebels are dangerous by himself, like blowing something up, so that they can kind of blame it on rebels and get them angry, get them acting to kind of prove his point, because that's what some crazy people do. And I think whatever he does is going to get Lonnie killed, and it's going to feel unceremonious. They didn't catch that he was a spy, but he's going to do leave some type of love bomb.
It's very like
He's gonna have
Oklahoma
a
City
manifesto. Yeah, he's gonna have a manifesto for sure.
Yeah,
The way
So
they
it counts a
just-
manifesto to Nemec. Nemec's got his own, and then
Oh,
Sybil's got,
yeah.
like, the counter
This is
version.
gonna be like the
Dueling
bad version of a
manifestos.
manifesto. Yeah.
But I'm
it's gonna
actually
say
bottom.
manifesto, but it's just gonna be Dedra's name written 1,000 times over and over again.
Because you know
And-
he's not
Little
gonna leave
hearts.
her alone. Like, and I think that like
Mhm.
he is going to like insert himself into a situation where it is going to probably I don't know if it's Lonnie, but it's going like people are going to get hurt. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know where they're gonna go with him right now, which makes him a fascinating character to me in this series, because he could be used in so many ways, and I don't. Yeah, he's not leaving Deidre alone.
His name is the funniest to me though, because there's a tradition in Star Wars of just naming people after what they are, like just the most obvious, and naming him corn cereal backwards is like the funniest possible thing. Like Cyril Karn, his name is literally corn cereal, and that's all he. And I was like, this is the most like. Not since Walrus Man have we as Star Wars fans had something so dumb. Maybe Savage Press. Savage Press is up there too. But
Yeah, it's pretty
corn
bad.
cereal's going on the shelf of dumb Star Wars names
Yeah.
with Therm Scissor Punch.
Yes, and also the doctor, the doctor in Andor,
Quad
Doctor. Yes, Quad.
Doctor what?
The guy that was working on no, I can't
Narkina?
remember.
Lufa?
The doctor with the
Ula?
4 arms. Yeah, his name is
Oh.
Dr. Quadpaw.
Yeah.
Runner up of Dr. Mandible, the Ant Doctor. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Also, don't see doctors in the Star Wars universe because they all seem pretty wacky to me. I don't know.
I'll go with
Maybe-
the
Medical
medical droid.
droids are the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I'd go to the one on Tatooine who fixed up Fennec and fixed up Timothy Oliphant. Why am I blanking on his name?
Club Van?
Oh yeah,
that-
Cobb.
Oh, man.
Cobb.
Oh man, yeah. That
It was like
doctor.
Ken Swain.
That doctor from like a hut on Tatooine is doing magic that nobody else can do. He's like, oh yeah, that person's dead. I can bring them back to life. You know, people are like, oh, they have a cough. Sorry, they're dead now.
He's a Jedi.
Thundercats is the boss.
His name's Thundercats.
That's his musician name. He's like a DJ.
Oh, in real life, I thought
Yeah,
you
yeah,
meant
yeah.
his Star Wars name was Thundercats.
I don't know which is weirder
Weird.
though.
It might as well be. It might as well be.
Honestly, yeah.
Oh my god.
I seriously though got teared up listening to Luthen's speech, and like if there are not awards given to this show in this area. Oh, sorry, Spooky. What I didn't get.
No, I just want to expand on that after whenever you're done. Like, but because I have more to expand on that. So finish whatever you're saying because I agree with you.
the speech and the dark places that he has to go to in order to fight. It's interesting to see the counterplay between Luthen, Mon Mothma, and someone like Saw Gerrera, where he's starting to look more like Saw, but Saw doesn't seem to have a code. I think Saw sleeps soundly at night, and Luthen does not. But it's fascinating. I teared up during both speeches in this, and I feel like they are fighting back and forth for just being brilliant, for taking the thunder from the episode. But what were we gonna say, Spooky?
I felt like, especially with Luthen's speech, that whoever wrote this episode, and I had to look it up, and because I also heard this on TikTok, I forget who, but they said that
Oh, William.
yeah, he's written like Broadway plays or plays,
Ah.
and it really like shows with like Luthen's speech, because like if that wasn't like a Broadway play speech, I don't know really what is, because if I was Lonnie and he belted that out, I'd be like, how? Like, how, did you just have that like sitting around? Like, who like does that like all at once? Like, I can understand like one of those lines, but he did like 5 or 6 of those lines, and then Andy Serkis's speech with Andor like, pushing him over the intercom. It was just such a beautiful episode for like dialogue overall. I think in general, just so
The
much
lines.
symbolism going on.
The
I mean,
lines
this
in
is the
the
best
show,
dialogue
everything.
Yeah.
in Star Wars, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I don't even think there's like a competition other than episode 2, The Sand.
Attack of the Clones?
Yes, that has the best dialogue.
Cool.
I
No,
don't know that I can
Sand.
agree.
The
with
sand
that.
scene. Got it. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, I was
Yeah.
like, he's
Oh,
saying
no,
this with a straight face.
Terrible mistake.
Yeah, I can say a lot with a straight face. Like, I'm sorry.
I was like,
Yeah,
I thought you meant episode 2 of Andor first, and I was like, there was like 6 pieces of dialogue in episode
Yeah.
2. Almost nobody spoke in the first 2 episodes of this show.
Sorry.
Just going back to what you said, Choco, earlier about Saw sleeping at night. I think if he hooks up his CPAP, he probably sleeps okay. But
yeah,
He's
yeah.
not.
can't- I
He's
can't
not
imagine
there
he, like,
yet. He
breathes
doesn't
well.
have a CPAP yet.
That's true.
I-
We might witness that.
well, he doesn't have his daytime CPAP, but I think he's already on the nighttime one. You know what I mean?
Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right, Claire's. Yeah, we might see him
Say
get
chocolate.
asthma
Oh, sorry.
with whatever happens. Were you gonna say, Tate?
No, I was
Sorry, were you gonna say something?
going to
Tate?
say I was thinking about this morning. So obviously, there's a lot of parallels you can. Yeah, is mic on? Ooh.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't hear
Is it
the first
working?
time.
Okay,
Yeah, there was
awesome.
a
No.
lag, but
There's a
you're good
delay.
now.
No, I was thinking, oh, this is what happens when you live at the bottom of the planet. It's just no, I was gonna say Luthen and Saw. Obviously, there's a lot of parallels between the two of them, but I think maybe the most apt description to say is that Luthen is a self-aware version of Saw Gerrera. I don't think Saw really takes the time to sit and think. He's got his justifications in what he's doing. Really, armed revolution is all you can do to fight. But I don't think he sits at night and thinks, wow, this is like I'm doing horrible things in order to achieve freedom. Luthen, I don't think he's slept a sound night in 20 years. I think this dude has nightmares and trauma and things he deals with. Saw probably sleeps like a rock. Dude's probably just like, right, go to bed, wake up, cause a little mischief, go to bed again. It's definitely a very interesting way to highlight the nuances and differences between all these characters, especially I like the way you put it with we got Mon Mothma, Luthen, and Saw. Mon Mothma is that extreme like ideal world, like wow, if we could only have a leader like Mon Mothma who's like super awesome, super face of the rebellion, so all like neat and tidy, doesn't do anything wrong, but that's not the world we live in. So it's like, okay, do we have a Luthen? Is Luthen the ideal character to have at the front of this rebellion? It's like, no, Luthen does horrible things, but sometimes you need to have people who do horrible things. And then I feel like Saul kind of falls into like the far end of it, where it's like, yeah, he's fighting the Empire, but as Rebels taught us, it's about how you fight, not fighting to win. So it's a really interesting way. Yeah, it plays the idea that there's no right, there's no wrong answer, and there's a lot of discourse. And that's the thing. The show's generated such amazing discourse from so many creators on this topic.
Yeah. And the scene in the elevator as well was just, I don't know, it's just really cool with the idea of using that to meet and talking with him until he shows up, and then looking like Batman standing in the dark with your cloak on.
I did appreciate that they did nothing to make the headset look more Star Warsy. Like that's like
It was just a Bluetooth earpiece.
our YouTube channel is going to be sponsored by Raycon next month, and it looks exactly like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. I mean, I think we've.
I was gonna say Luthen in the dark. He didn't give me the Batman vibes. He gave me like, have you ever seen the Family Guy where Kermit the Frog is Deep Throat?
Deep Throat.
Yes, it gave me that vibe. Like,
I thought you were
Kermit
doing
the
an
Frog in
ad
the
there
shadows.
for a second. Have you ever seen the Family Guy where Kermit the Frog is Deep Throat? It sounds like the most like that. I don't know how they came up with that joke, but wow.
It's a parallel to the reporters from JFK assassination, I think.
No,
No, Deep Throat is
no,
the
it's Nixon.
Watergate.
Watergate.
Oh, Watergate. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Nixon.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, we've covered we've basically covered the whole episode. I want to make sure weren't forgetting anything. You guys have other thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
We got one scene. We got one scene back.
Ferrets.
Ferrets.
Yeah, ferrets, yeah.
Where we didn't even really see any of our like main characters in that plot line. All we found out is that Andor's mom not taking her medication, and that's kind of it. It was like the most random like small scene that I know is setting up something, and so I'd love to know if you guys have like predictions onto what that is, because there's no way that with how meticulous everything has been, there's no way that was just there because, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Marva
absolutely.
dies. Either that or she's staging her sickness so she can get somehow closer to the hotel to bomb it on her own fruition. I don't know, but I still think Marva's going to go out guns blazing, but she's dead. She's dead with
Not dead though until she goes through those tunnels and gets Bix out. I think that Marva goes through the tunnels.
Oh, so I think you were saying that the medication was like important. I think she's going to like super dose whatever medication she's getting to a guard or somebody.
Oh, I thought you meant she was gonna super dose and like fucking Rambo her way through the.
No.
It's like Anna's ult on Overwatch.
No. As much as I would love to see that, no,
Oh
I meant like she's saving the medication, I think, and she's going to use it to somehow get Bix free. I hope.
Well,
poor Bix. Oh
the
my
dialogue
God.
in that scene, one of the benefits of doing having to edit reaction videos is I have to listen to like every single piece of dialogue very closely to see if I need to edit it out. And in the very background of that scene, what you hear is she's hiding her meds because she wants to be like clear-minded, or she wants to be more aware, and so her meds are clouding her. And so I think she's like, I think you're right. She might be, I don't know how she would poison the guards with it, but that'd be a fun, like, they're all like a little bit loopy and she's just kind of walking through because they're all poisoned.
Right?
She gets the Imperials high. That's the episode I want.
She's got something up her sleeve.
Yeah,
I tell you what,
no milk of the poppy today.
I have not a sound. I don't have a sound night of sleep knowing that we see in that scene both Cinta and some ISB plants are watching Marva, and I have this nightmare vision in my head that Cassian's going to come home, and then Cinta's going to pull up being like, right, I'm going to take you out, and the ISB dude's going to be like, right, I'm going to take you out, and for some reason, Marva's going to get caught in that crossfire, and it's all going to be Cassian's fault, and he's going to blame her.
Bruh.
I have not slept a sound night of sleep in weeks thinking about what's happening to her. It's going to punch us in the gut, and I'm just not prepared for it emotionally.
Is there another ISB agent who's watching her?
a lot of people on TikTok or on Twitter and TikTok that I've seen are like super anti-Marva, which I find very interesting. Like there,
I love Marva myself.
Well, but there's the take of she kidnapped this child. And it's a fascinating point of view on it, right? Because there is that element of like, yes, but also she thought that child was going to die on that planet, right? And I think that she's a more complicated character than I think people on that side are giving her credit for. But there is a lot of real world parallels. You know, it is sometimes when you get into something like a Star Wars and you get into having a person of color as a lead, there are real world realities of how you view how that person of color is treated, even though I don't know that Cassian Andor is a person of color in Star Wars in the same way that Diego Luna is a person of color in the real world, right? Like those kind of things maybe don't exist. And so, you know, it's weird to think about whether or not he was taken in the same way that children of color have been taken from their families, particularly Indigenous children of color. We're Canadians, and like the realities of the Indigenous residential schools in Canada are a horrifying thing that we as a country are trying to deal with now. But that was a lot of kids getting taken away from their families by the government, right? And so I think that there is a real by centering this story around a person of color as its lead and having him as a child taken away by this, family from
White
another
woman.
planet. Yeah, by a white
Yeah.
woman and a black man. So like it gets a little bit more complicated here, but
True.
by this person from a different planet who comes in and just picks up this child because they think they're doing what's best for that child. It does complicate the narrative around that character in a way that I find really fascinating, particularly in that she is adamant that Cassian's sister is dead, and Cassian has this belief that she's alive, which I don't think we're done with. Like I think that's going to come back.
Yeah.
But it's opened up a narrative around Marva that's she seems to be doing all the right things for all the right reasons, but there is this kind of like dark underbelly of what's going on with her.
Yeah.
I agree. I had this conversation. I had Brian from Pink Milk on here, and when he was talking about his 2 adoptive kids and how basically he has had these kids show up on his doorstep, and it's his job to love them with his entire heart, and he absolutely does. I was starting to get teared up thinking about that, of like because from Marva's perspective, that's kind of what happened. Like there's this child, you feel certain he's gonna die, and you're like, are we ready to be parents? I guess we are. Let's go. I just think that's really fascinating. But
I don't think. Yeah. No, sorry. Go ahead if you're not done.
Oh, I was just gonna say, for me, we got the little scene on Ferrix because once Cassian escapes with Melchi, I think they might be showing back up on Ferrix, and we're gonna get a whole knockdown, drag out fight in the final episode of trying to get Bix out there. I think they're gonna use those tunnels. I think the ISB plants are, gonna be in the crowd trying to do stuff, and
They're
I think the whole
obvious
thing's gonna
still.
get messy.
So long as Brasso and B2 make it, I'm okay. And Vix. But as long as those 3 make it, I'll be okay.
Oh,
B2
I
emo better
can't imagine
live.
B2 makes it. I don't think there's a world where they don't know that is more so than any other character death. I think B2 is the one that the audience can't deal with the most. And because there's a reason why there's a site called Does the Dog Die, which tells you if the dog dies in a movie, right? B2 Emo is the dog of this series, and this show thus far does not seem like the kind of show where the dog makes it.
It is Star Wars.
Unfortunately.
I see a world where any revolt on Ferrix ends with them going like, we kicked the Empire out, awesome, they're going to leave us alone forever. Like, the Ferrix is not lethal. If they revolt and they win, they are 100% getting clapped back. The fact that the ISB puts so much pressure on that sector of space being like crucial, because it's an industrial world, right? So the fact that it's so crucial, they will just come back. I mean, this isn't a spoiler, but I think we've seen Andor trailer 1, like this teaser trailer, there's like Dedra walking with 2 Deaths. Like if Death Troopers are involved on Ferrix, it's game over. Especially, I mean, 2 prison guards on Arkina 5 being portrayed as like the greatest sharpshooters in the galaxy. Death Troopers on a revolt on Ferrix, that ain't gonna end well. The dog's dying. I'm sorry.
Chillin' in the Basement brings up that Star Wars only kills side character droids, which is not true, because L337 lives on in the Falcon, but we watched that girl die, and it was hard. Okay,
Hey,
L3,
K2 also died.
Oh, K2, yeah, good point.
Yeah, K
And-
also dies.
Ned B.
So all we need to do is watch out, because whoever says climb, dead.
They're
If you
dead.
say climb, dead.
Game over.
They're dead.
I
Absolutely
feel
dead.
like every live action Star Wars show since Mandalorian has had like some sort of droid we've loved. Maybe not Book of Boba Fett, where they died. Like Kenobi.
Well, yeah, the IG unit.
Yeah. The IG unit is. I was so
sacrificed
sad
as
when
well.
he died.
Lola
Yeah.
briefly died. Lola came back though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, she came
Lola
back.
pulled a
But
C-3PO.
I was talking about the
C-3PO
loader
dies
droid.
when Empire Strikes Back. He gets like blown to pieces, and
Yeah.
I
The
just
Chewie
yellow
puts it back
droid
together.
died.
But
Yeah, the yellow droid died in Kenobi. I forget his name.
Ned
Um,
B.
Oh,
but-
Greatest
him.
droid.
Yeah. Shit, what's his name?
Ned, yeah.
Yeah,
Ned.
Ned.
yeah,
Ned
Ned's
B.
declassified school survival guide.
Yes. Same
that's a
character.
throwback.
I laugh now though, thinking about
Yeah.
everyone going like, is that Rex's butt we saw? And I'm like, no, it's droid butt. It's droid butt. Um,
Uh,
but yeah, we can go ahead and start to wrap up. So if there's any other points that we're missing, and then you can also let me know, let us all know once again where we can find you and your awesome content. But we'll go around one last time and start with Spooky.
we still don't know exactly what they were building in the
God
prison,
damn it,
right?
Pat.
Oh god. That's probably true. But
No,
damn,
Why?
it is true.
Why? Why
That
did
was-
he
that
at
was
the end of the
unnecessary.
episode? Yeah, at the end of the episode too. Like that was violence. All right. We still don't really know what they were building in the prison, right? Like I didn't see that mentioned. But I think it's a Rebels reference where Ryder on the episode with Princess Leia is there, where they're doing the gravity locks. He said Ryder says like he assembled those in prison. So like I don't know. Like I always thought I was hoping they were gonna come out to be gravity locks and it be another Rebels reference because it comes. The shows are taking place around the same time. But
I thought they were really big bionicles.
I thought it's going to be a Connects roller coaster.
yeah.
Go to Planet Emperor.
Yeah.
They're just
I
building
like-
theme park pieces.
Yeah.
It's just
I like
Tony
the-
Gilroy taking a shot at Disney itself. He's like, "Yeah, Disneyland up yours."
I like the idea on one of your other episodes, Dark Chaka. One of your guests said one level was taking them apart and one level was putting them back together, and it was just like a constant like loop of like monotonous.
Keep it
Oh
busy.
my god.
Yeah, but you can find me and on TikTok under the Spooky Jedi, and my podcast is on Spotify. Rebel Scum with the side of calf, and we just talk Star Wars in general, and we're also on TikTok.
Awesome. Beautiful. And how about you, Young?
I could get more into Marvin, just like adopted children. I'm going to take 2 minutes for that. I see where some of the people still have an ick about Marva, because I am adopted, so I'm adopted from China, but my mom was also first generation Chinese, so she still had me grow up in the Asian culture. Led me to therapy, but that's a whole other story. But I see where people are kind of about Marva because in a way she did kind of take Cassian's Kanari heritage away from him, because he no longer speaks the language. Well, obviously she didn't know the language, but there's no connection with him to his former home besides the memory of his sister. And she also changes his name. Was it to protect him, or was it because she didn't understand him? So I kind of see where people are having their problems with her because of the erasure of his ethnic background. And then for me, you can find me on the Tiki Tacs at Lothal Youngling, and then also on Apple and Spotify for There Are More of Us Pod. Me and my co-host, we're doing deep dives into Andor, and our last episode, we were really tired. So if you listen to it, so sorry for all the giggling.
And how about you, Ted?
Oh man. I mean, honestly, we can hours and hours about the Marvel. That was really awesome discourse in those first couple episodes. Talk about. I will say though, going off your point, Cassian is 100% a person of color in the Star Wars universe. Even if the Star Wars universe doesn't play the same rules that we have in real life, there's deliberate attempt and effort in the narrative to make it a case of othering. The fact that Cassian is the only person who has his own native accents in a show that is large accents, don't think that's not intentional at all. Is it because Tony Gilroy only hired people out of England? Yes, absolutely. A way you can tie that into Cassian's identity as well. Marvis stripped him of his agency. I think it was malicious. No, I believe she was doing the right thing. But it did leave lasting effects on him. It's such a nuanced conversation. Because the same point on it, so super duper awesome. But yeah, let's go on. So much to see. 2 episodes left, and I don't want to wait until 2024. I want the next season out. I want to meet Tony Gilroy and say, listen, I know you don't want to waste 15 years of your life, but please, 5-season vision. I need it. But yeah, I
I'm
think
all
the
for
reason
that.
the
I'm
show
all
has
for that.
resonated. 5 seasons. Did you hear what he said? He was talking to Diego Luna, and he was like, listen, man, I don't want to die making the show if we're going to go on that long. We got to cap it. So can we get him to do it? Can we get him to do it? 5 seasons, please? But
6
yeah,
seasons in a
I
movie.
think the reason the show's
Well, we got the movie.
6 seasons in the movie. Rogue One, yeah. I think the reason the show's resonated so well with so many people is, Obi-Wan and Boba Fett, those shows kind of have the baggage of being characters that we already know, and everyone has their idea of what a Boba Fett show should be, what a Kenobi show should be. But the fact that besides Cassian, the majority of these characters here are new, and we have no exposure to them, and we're so engaged in learning about them and the way that we approach them and the way that we unpack their narratives and their stories. It's what's made this show such a pleasure to discuss with so many amazing people like yourselves. So I'm keen. 2 episodes left. Going to be super exciting. You can find me at Star Wars Facts Guy on TikTok. I'm going to be breaking it down every week and getting into the nitty gritty. Closing thoughts. Thank you for inviting me here today. I always love being here when I can. And I need Funko Pops and Black Series of all these characters ASAP if anyone's listening. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And last but certainly not least, and congratulations on 25K on YouTube. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
Nerdy Crew.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to introduce such a heavy thing right at the end. We were doing it.
No,
in our
no, we're having fun. This is
where
what
you
we
can
do.
follow
It's so
us.
good.
And also, let's try and dissect, colonialism right at the end of the podcast. So I'll throw in my last thoughts on it. I think that I agree with you 100%, both of you, but particularly Youngling. I think that Marva's justification for her actions is that she views the Empire has already taken away Cassian's culture from him by destroying the planet, right? And I think that what's complicated about her character is I don't think she views what she does through the lens that we view it in the real world.
No, it's
Because I think
valid,
that
yeah.
she thinks she's genuinely saving a kid from a planet that is going to kill him tomorrow, in a way that it makes her complicated. But I don't disagree with either of you at all. Having said that, you can follow me if you want to watch us watch the show. Our reactions are up on YouTube. We have all 10 of them up, and I've cried a few times, as I'm known to do. I think my tears got us to 25K. But yeah, if you are one of those people who have followed us over there, thank you so much. It means the world to us. I'm over at Nerdy Nightly anywhere that matters, and a few places that don't, like Twitter.
Wow. Ooh, yeah.
Twitter, where the check boxes are made up and the points don't matter. Yeah.
I have one of those checks. I've paid for Twitter Blue, so it's gonna be curious. My check mark showed up today, because I had Twitter Blue already, and so I paid for it, and because I wanted to try the editing feature, which I actually do like. I think the editing feature is great. And when you post a tweet, it goes to a different screen where it's are you sure you want to post this tweet? Read it right now before you post it. And I like that screen a lot because I'm oh, I can't, I'm dyslexic, so I can't spell it all. So the second screen is always where I'm oh, I will fix that. And I like the news side of the Twitter Blue. But now that Twitter Blue's become political, I'm well, I guess I'll get rid. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
Need to bring MySpace back.
Oh, I only want 8 friends. That sounds perfect.
I never had MySpace.
You're so young.
No, it was not that.
You're a
Everybody,
child.
every other school had MySpace, and for some reason, my school was we're gonna be different. We're gonna have Nextopia, and I was yeah,
Well, now you're old because I think you and I are the only people who know what Nextopia.
I don't even know what that is.
yeah,
No
exactly.
clue what that is. I'm
I'm
young.
so sorry.
We had MSN Messenger and Nextopia.
Yeah. Ooh,
I remember
rough times.
Messenger.
I had AIM Messenger.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
With our emo statuses.
Yeah, song lyrics with
Mhm.
weird yeah. Yeah, I don't really
Between
have...
dyslexics untie. Sorry.
Hey. I can make that joke.
I didn't have anything else to add. I just wanted to wrap up that whole side of things. But I think it was a really interesting conversation. And definitely one that I'm glad that people are having. Right? I
Yeah,
think that
100%.
it's always important that everything is included in the discussion because everyone's going to have different perspectives on it and bring it to light. Whereas, like before those things on TikTok coming up, like it's not really something that would have been in the forefront of my mind. And I appreciate other people bringing their perspectives and shedding light on these things from their lived experience. So social media is all kinds of evil, but it is also all kinds of wonderful. Speaking of which, you can go follow me. I'm
On only the wonderful parts, right?
Only the good parts. Well, you can follow me at Claris Polaris. We also are both on Nerdy Nightly. You can watch us react to Andor as well as other shows, and there's gonna be a lot of Star Wars on there. Well, actually, not for much longer. Bad Batch.
Bad Batch.
There'll be a break, and then Bad Batch
And
will start up.
maybe a Grogu short on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard
Maybe.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Grogu and the Dust Bunnies. So get ready for that, maybe.
We have turn
In
your
4
chair a little
days?
bit. We have a giant Grogu in the corner there.
Oh, you got the squishmallow.
Yeah, this
Is it
little guy
is
with
this
the top,
Squishmallow?
though.
This is our dog because, yeah.
I'm at Claris Polaris. I'd love if you came and followed me.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it, and just in the vein of covering some heavy topics before we close, we can also really quick unpack the femininity and racist undertones of having Bix be tortured right after watching her be a girl boss in that room right before we close. But no, we can just save that for the next time. Anyways, thank you all for joining me. Thank you everyone in the chat. St. Pat, Brian with a beard, Connor Owens, chilling in the basement. We Star Wars lawyer, Harith Productions, Rams Howe, Elijah Sawyer, Gargantron. Awesome people. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you guys for being part of this discussion. But that is it for now. May the force
Thank
be
you
with
for the
you.
invite, Chaco.
Always.